playing it up.
I was wondering if it's just apple juice.
That's what I think so. I think he's playing it up because
we'll do a quick show of hands at the end to see who's up for that. But we've got Mike and John on hand afterwards if anyone feels they want to start learning a bit more about how to actually press that edit button and start changing the words and making the internet correct. So, Mike, do you want to kick us off with your bits and bobs?
So I've just got a few slides here which are just for illustrative purposes. I don't know how to use Windows. No? Yes, there we go. So just as a quick summary of ways that you can contribute to Wikipedia as an organisation or as an individual without having to actually click that edit button. So there's a number of different options which have been tried by various groups over the last few years. The most easiest way to improve Wikipedia is just release content, release images or text or whatever material you have under a free license, which means it can then be included in Wikipedia articles immediately by anyone that wants to. You don't have to actually do it yourself, but you put them on Wikipedia Commons and that helps. But there's a plethora of different licenses and conventions used out there for how to release an image. So the kind of good ones are at the top here. So if you release it under a Creative Commons attribution, which is I, attribution share alike, which is ISA, or into the public domain, then Wikipedia can instantly use those. That's absolutely fantastic for free content movement as a whole. There's some problematic ones as well though. So if you go for a non-commercial license, then what does non-commercial actually mean? It's kind of an ambiguous term, so that's generally a bad idea. Same as non-derivatives. If you can't change anything after you've published it, then that's not going to be part of Wikipedia. There's various other websites which just say on their archives, yes, you can use this, but only for personal use, which again, what does that actually mean? Particularly nowadays where people have blogs and want to put content on there. Is that personal? Is that commercial? Is that not? There's a whole ambiguous area. So it's generally best avoided. And same with, yes, but you can only use it on Wikipedia, which isn't very good when Wikipedia is supposed to be used by others. So I encourage you to release images under a free license. Another thing that's been going on since 2010 under the editathon name, also before that as well, are editathons where people get together, so it's a mix of people who know about the topic and people who know how to edit Wikipedia, and bring them together, put them in the same room, and see what happens. Normally, we'll see quite a few Wikipedia articles being greatly improved on the articles on the topics which people have expertise on. So that's a few routes illustrated there. Another one is the backstage pass, where you get to go behind the scenes of the organisation. You look at it, you get Wikimedians in, you show them behind the scenes, you show them all the interesting stuff you've got hidden away in the organisation, and then sit down again, do an editathon, and see what comes out of that. Comes out with some quite interesting stuff, for example, articles about skeletons. Another thing that's worked really well on Wikipedia is challenges. So if you offer a prize and say, can you improve an article on the collections of the British Museum, which is one of the ones which was done, and see what people do on Wikipedia. So they ended up with 5 articles which were up to featured article status at the end of this competition. Another one was a Hoxley challenge, where a group of Wikimedians got together and were editing about a single topic called the Hoxley Horde. And it changed from this short article here to one which I couldn't really fit on, so it's down the side there. It's a dramatic improvement in the content. And also, Wikipedia Monuments is a global competition held encouraging others to take photographs of any monuments in their countries and upload them on Wikipedia as a competition. And actually got the Guinness World Record for the largest photo competition in the world. And finally, to lead on to what William and John are going to talk about is Wikipedians in residence. So briefly, these are Wikipedians who come and work for the organisation to provide expertise on Wikipedia and try to encourage other Wikipedians and members of the general public and people in the Institute to work with the organisation to improve articles which are relevant to that organisation. And these are just a few of the people who have been Wikipedians in residence from around the world, as you can see Don across there. And so that's basically what I was going to say. So over to Holly.
Hello, I'm Holly. I work for the Cochrane Collaboration. Cochrane provides, we aim to provide the best evidence in healthcare And well, for over a year now, we've had a partnership with Wikipedia, and since April this year, we've had a Wikipedian in residence, Sydney Poor, who's right in the top corner. And we've had rather an interesting experience. Cochrane and Wikipedia are very similar in terms of the types of information that are involved, the scale of the organisations, and we're really now trying to work out a focused way of kind of cutting down on the various ideas and enthusiasm and making sure that they're turned into a simple work process that people can use. So over the last few months we've held various editathons at conferences. We've had an editathon where we've had Henry and John join us at Cochrane UK and taught some students how to edit Wikipedia. But the main thing that we're looking to do next is to make sure that so Cochrane is divided into review groups who cover all the kind of key health topic areas. So there are 54 of them, from breast cancer to child health. And we need to find a way of streaming the Wikipedia editing into their workflows. And it'd be really good to get some feedback and discussion going on that.
Right, I've got a couple of slides just to look at where we're at with the Cancer Research UK Wikipedia in Residence project and what we've achieved, or what John's achieved, what we've achieved across the organisation. Why are we doing this? We're a big organisation, we fund lots of research, but we also have a duty, part of our mission statement, vision statement as an organisation, to provide information to people. We have a big website, it gets lots of people looking at it. And traditionally we focus on that website and improving that website. It's clinically reviewed, it gets lots of traffic. But we started sort of looking, this initially started when I was on the internet team at Cancer Research UK, and we were looking at search engine optimization and whether we could come up with the top of Google rankings, and there was a pesky Wikipedia site in the way, and we wanted to get above that. And we thought that's the wrong approach. Let's engage with it. Wikipedia has a lot of medical content. It's got, I think, something like 5 billion visits per year with medical content, very loosely defined. There's a thing called Wiki Project Medicine, which is a collection of Wikipedia editors from around the world who discuss and edit Wikipedia medical content. Broadly speaking, there's about 130,000 medical related articles, but if you were to get down to the stuff that the project is focused on, I think it's about 80,000. There's about 300 editors who edit the medical content, but again, if you zoom really down to people who are really active editors, it might be as low as about 80 people. So 80 people around the world responsible for stuff that 5 billion people are looking at. There's a real imbalance here, and we thought that this could be something that we could bring some knowledge and expertise to and maybe help. We push all of this expertise onto our own website.
Expertise. I thought that wasn't explicitly wanted on Wikipedia.
I think Wikipedia wants.
No, that's what you got.
So
I'll probably come on to that.
what they'll say, if you go and you try to edit an article and somebody doesn't
well,
made,
yeah.
well, you say, well, I'm a researcher and I know this, they'll say that doesn't count.
Yeah, you have to reference it, yeah. That doesn't mean they don't want expertise, far from it.
So we were sort of looking at what we could do about this. This is vast amounts of knowledge and expertise we have, and there's a vast amount of content that has been created that is maybe out of date in some cases, or is very US focused, or is written in very complex medical terminology. I'm not saying it's wrong, just saying that it could be improved. So we had to think about what we could do about this, and in about 2010, 2011, I emailed info@Wikimedia UK and said, could we have someone come to Cancer Research UK and give us some training? And Mike got back and had a bit of dialogue. We ended up having an editing training session. We got a few people trained in-house, and that went nowhere. And we realised that there hadn't been sufficient culture change internally to really take this forward. So we thought the next step to do would be to recruit a Wikipedia in residence. So we applied to London Trust for funding, and we got money for 6-month posts starting last May. And we broke that down into 4 key areas that we wanted to focus on over the course of John's time at CRUK, which we can discuss a bit more in detail later, but they were chiefly, as Mike said, we're trying to look at what we can release under a Creative Commons license. We're a publicly funded charity. This shouldn't be an
an impossibility at all, but we needed to make sure that our brand team were comfortable, our legal team were comfortable with it, all sorts of internal barriers to this kind of stuff. We wanted to improve some content. We picked 4 articles to focus on because we wanted to see if we really focused on stuff, could we measure an improvement in it. So we've picked the 4 cancers of unmet needs that we've all identified in our organisational research strategy, which are brain, pancreatic, lung and esophageal cancer, which tend to get much less funding and have much poorer outcomes, rather than focusing on the well-known ones, if you like breast cancer and prostate cancer. We wanted to do some training, so we were focusing on 2 key audience. One is staff, trying to get everyone, trying to raise awareness of what Wikipedia is, but also bringing in our researchers and trying to engage them in what this is all about. And then also we wanted to run a little research project aimed at answering 2 questions. What are these 5 billion people who come to Wikipedia? What are they actually looking for? Why do they use this information? Are they using it to self-diagnose? Are they looking to read about something in the media? What role does Wikipedia play in their medical searching online? And then we want to do some very simple evaluation. Have we made a difference? Are the articles actually in any way easier to read or more useful? So we wanted to sort of explore those 2 issues and try and work out how we're going to do that. So we've got a month left of the project. And we, happy to say, we ticked all the legal boxes of our legal team. The brand team were really keen on it, and we released 390 medical images, of which you can see one up there, to Wikimedia Commons under a CC BY license. And in the first month, they were viewed about 1.4 million times, which, if you think about the number of visits we get to our patient information site as a whole anyway, this is just massively doubled our reach in terms of our information. So if you can massively double anything, I think you should double it. We have also started, we're in the final stage of discussing whether we can release our information content, the text itself, under a CC BY SA license to allow people to actually copy and paste into Wikipedia rather than having to paraphrase our very clinically signed off stuff. We've got a workflow for content where John will sit with the experts within the organisation, produce a series of recommendations, put that out to the community. In some cases that means someone will come pick that up and start improving the articles. If there's no one who comes along, John will do that himself. We've massively improved 3 articles. We've got one more that we really need to focus on, which is the brain tumour one. John's done lots of training across the organisation, and then over the next few weeks, we're going to be going around to our key institutes in Oxford, Cambridge, Manchester, and Glasgow. And then the research has taken a bit longer to get off the ground because we decided to actually partner with the academic team at the Farr Institute of Digital Health at UCL. So we're trying to do this rigorously and robustly and publish it somewhere rather than just doing a survey. Here's just a quick example of the sorts of things that we've improved on the site. The top thing, pancreatic cancer is a malignant neoplasm originating from transferred cells, and then pancreatic cancer occurs when cancer cells develop in the pancreas and the stomach. Just much more plain English language and much more accessible to the opening line of the page. What have we learnt? Wikipedia needs more editors. We need the more people we can recruit to this, the better, and that's one of the reasons we want to get cracking with the training and why you should come to some training later on. Creative Commons is amazing. The power of this stuff, the reach of this stuff, to allow people to take your content and reuse it and adapt it and to go everywhere is a really, really good thing. Changing the way your organisation thinks about the stuff is hard, but it's definitely not impossible. We've got a sentence on our consent form for photography now for the charity, which has got a Creative Commons tick box on it, so that actually the photography we get going forward, we can actually look at releasing as it happens rather than having we've got a governance panel around all that as well, so that's really good. And that you need to collaborate with this stuff. We can't do it on our own as an organisation. We can't make Wikipedia better on our own. We've got to work with Wikimedia UK, we've got to work with research organisations, researchers, doctors and clinicians and everyone. So yeah, thanks very much. And if you do want to know more, Wikipedia at cancer.org.uk will come to me and John. So yeah, thank you very much. So, how are we doing for time?
Let's do about 2 minutes. Also, before I was a cancer researcher, I was also at the Royal Society, very part-time for 6 months. So, although I don't have a scientific background, previously I worked in museums much more. This year I've been very much involved with engaging, bringing scientific researchers and Wikipedia together I mean, the big picture is that Wikipedia really needs editors. It particularly, I think, needs scientific editors. A very common thing I find going out to research institutes and meeting with researchers in groups is that you get the person who edited Wikipedia for a few months 10 years ago when they were doing their doctorate and did a small number of pretty good articles on their subject, and then they just stopped because people do, because they get busy or they get married or they have children or something, and they haven't revisited it very typically. And unfortunately that population is not getting regenerated. We're not attracting, 10 years ago Wikipedia was just becoming, it was actually more like sort of 7 or 8 years ago was the peak. Wikipedia was the sort of the Twitter of the moment. And I think the current generation of people at that stage in their careers don't seem to think about it, which is a real pity because it is, for an easy win on sort of outreach, public engagement, actually it's quite hard to beat Wikipedia because the views are so fantastic. I mean, Twitter at the end of the day, it just ends up at the bottom of the birdcage being shat on, electronically like a newspaper. Wikipedia, although there's a kind of belief that if you write something in Wikipedia, somebody's going to come along and change it, sadly, the reverse is much more likely to be true. So stuff written on Wikipedia tends to stick around for now 7 or 8 years, whether it's right or whether it's wrong. And so one also doesn't, there are ways of engaging as researchers without actually editing by going on the talk pages, the project pages. And I've been trying this year to interest researchers in that sort of approach as well, if they're more senior and really busy, without, I have to say, tremendous amounts of success. But I do think the opportunity is there, and I do think more scientists should engage with Wikipedia.
I think that's going to be one of the...
I'm trying to get that as well, and I've been involved with it a little bit myself, and continuously what comes back to me from Wikipedia, and this is also to some extent true of Stack Exchange, is that someone will, the first time they go, they have a bad experience because they go in there thinking, okay, I'm the expert on this subject, I know what I'm talking about, how my contributions will be appreciated. They go and they write this page, and maybe they don't follow the norms exactly because they don't really know all of the norms all that well, and they get sort of a not so nice response back about what they did wrong, and the whole sort of first user experience.
It is very easy to put people off. I think actually that was especially a problem of sort of 2009 to 11. And I think we've since then, I don't say it's not a problem at all now, but that was particularly a period when there were more rules, the requirement for referencing and all that was increasing, and there was also a kind of sort of whack-a-mole attitude towards new stuff that was rejected very easily. I think we tended to get beyond that a bit, but it can still happen. I mean, certainly you have to, what's no good at all is coming on to or little good is coming onto a talk page to discuss an issue and just saying, hey, I am an expert, listen to me, trust me, I'm a doctor, that won't work. It will work if you start chucking in references and links, have very full arguments, but you can't just go on and say, hey, I know what I'm talking about, I'm right, you're wrong.
Quite counterproductive, right? To
Yeah.
do that, because it tweaks the people who are maintaining it, kind of tweaks their, it's not what Wikipedia is about, sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's also if you're new, there's a particular problem that you established users on Wikipedia get credibility, and new users are regarded with suspicion, almost whoever they are.
The expert problem is that if you're an expert in something, chances are you have someone will be able to find something about you to allege that you have a conflict of interest in editing this page. For example, the because we're from Indolate, and therefore, you know, everything we say is suspect.
And don't you have anything? Do you have anything to reference? I mean, if you had a, you know, generally speaking, if you have a kind of published newspaper piece that you can reference to, that's not a problem. But obviously you do have a conflict of interest, and particularly when it's a commercial company.
This is the issue I was talking to you about
People,
actually at lunch, because I work with
yeah.
William. So
Yeah.
we discussed, William presented an idea. There are obviously references that we could use, but because we can't use it from within the organization.
The big realisation for us with this was that actually the first place to go is not actually the page itself, it's the talk page. And actually going in there and engaging first with the community and saying, right, hi, I'm from Cancer Research UK. These are the references we have on our website. They're not peer-reviewed academic references, but it's source material.
IP address and where the edit's coming from.
We don't edit, let someone else edit, but put the information on the talk page. That was our big kind of realisation with this, that actually going in there and putting information on the talk page saying, look, this is the stuff that we know to be true, would someone else like to go and have a look at this and put it on the main page? So you're actually engaging with the editing community.
It's very much the case, if you've got a conflict of interest, if you disclose it up ahead, that's absolutely, even just on your own personal user page, that's absolutely sort of necessary. If you don't disclose it and you get caught out, you know, somebody realises you've got it, then you're really kind of looked at in a negative way, and it's actually quite hard to come back from that, and people do suffer from that.
Oh yeah, and as they should. I mean, not wanting any feedback from someone who has a disclosed conflict of interest and wanting that information to come from a third-party source is part of the challenge.
It sounds like this might be something to work through in the editorial afterwards, rather than going into detail here.
Yeah.
I have a different question. Henry, you mentioned at your organization at Cancer Research UK that all the photos are now CC. You know, you have a tick box, not all, but many of them.
Yeah.
And I guess I don't have a full understanding of all the intricacies of CC. And one of the things that I wonder is, I imagine that a PR office at an institute or at a company, if you say, hey, we should make these creative comments, someone would say, well, what's to prevent someone from drawing devil horns on me and saying that it's a good reuse of an image? So how do you sort of
that was one of the interesting sort of sets of discussions we had early on, was that everyone sees the risks of this because it's fairly obvious what the risks are, and the benefits are really unknown at that point, because you don't know if anyone's going to want to take a photo of you and draw horns or smiles or anything on it at all.
Yeah, they can. I mean, the immediate answer is they can.
Yeah.
And there's nothing. But in a way, they would anyway, and you wouldn't do anything about it.
This is the biggest argument we had. Well, not the biggest discussion we had about this. The positive one that really won this stuff was that actually the people who are going to do crap stuff to your organisation are going to do crap stuff to your organisation. The people who don't care about copyright licensing, the breach copyright, they're going to nick your images anyway. What you're doing by not releasing your stuff is you're stopping the good guys from having it. So for example, we have these pages and pages on our website of lay-friendly cancer statistics, which are very carefully phrased to avoid triggering sort of negative perceptions among people, being incredibly precise but also clear. By having that copyright Cancer Research UK, a Wikipedia editor who wants to use that statement needs to paraphrase it, which means all the work we put into signing this stuff off and getting agreement and making sure it's up to date immediately gets lost. So whereas the sort of people who will copy and paste this into their, I don't know, their vlogs or whatever, are just going to do that anyway. So by shutting this stuff off, we're actually shutting off the supply of good quality information into the internet. And I think that's where you have to come from this. The other one we had, which we spotted quite quickly when we went and had a look at the images of Cancer Research UK on Wikimedia Commons, they were from about 10 years ago, our old brand, they were badly taken photography of a couple of shops in the northeast of England.
Mostly charity shops.
Nothing good was on there. So actually, yes, people can take it, but they're going to go, other people are going to go to Wikimedia Commons or Flickr, CC, Creative Commons search, and look for stuff about you anyway. By putting your stuff in there for reuse, you get to control your brand more. And once we made that argument to people, suddenly everyone's like, oh, look at this immediately. Why are you waiting around? Come on, what? It's like the shift in perception was pretty quick.
It's also worth remembering that Creative Commons licenses is a copyright aspect. There's also things like personality rights that mean you can't just take a picture of someone and use it for advertising or whatever. You have to get permission in that kind of case.
Yeah, which we're not releasing any photos of patients, you know, or...
There are limits to what's practically feasible, what's morally feasible, practically feasible, and all that. So actually going, I think we're probably the same as most organisations, our internal photo library is rubbish and full of unattributed, unknown images of unknown origin. So we can't do anything with them. You need to know that the first thing that our legal team said is, do you definitely know 100% that the Cancer Research Care owns the copyright of this stuff? With those medical images, we absolutely knew we did because we made them. Yeah. But with photos of other stuff, was this taken by an ad agency that we've then put into our, we just don't know. So all that stuff is shut off. Hence rewording the clause on the permissions form so that at least in future we'll know that box was ticked or not ticked. Sorry, Creative Commons, where's that sort of come out with?
Do you know what? I really don't know enough about Creative Commons.
You haven't got an awful lot of images, I would have thought, have you?
We don't have the problem with Cochrane is the multiple funding in multiple regions, and so in the UK we have access to the NHS photo library, but we purchase.
You don't own it.
Yeah, we don't own them.
Yeah.
So not so much from my organisation's perspective, but just from the interest of there's all these medical and science.
Everyone here?
So from all the articles that are on Wikipedia about science, right, and I guess the scientific community would like them to be as accurate as possible, and of course the people who can give them as accurate data are the scientists, right? So, but as you said, maybe there were people 10 years ago when they were PhD students, they had it on this page, then they're gone. So I guess the question is, how are we as a community, what should be our strategy to make them accurate over time? And do we need to encourage the new generation of scientists to do it and encourage all the generations that come? Or is it the job of the institutions like Cancer Research UK to cover the cancer bits? Or do we have to basically just organise regular edit, the big things and do this regularly to make sure that things are up to date?
That's the big question, and that's what we all of this stuff has sort of got to a point where we're kind of like, okay, we know there's a problem, we know we're starting to get a handle on how big the problem is and what the levers that need to be pulled to fix it. But actually coming up with an organised with a strategy.
Another approach that there's been a lot of is getting in America mainly is getting it sort of little course or part of a course for undergraduates mostly, where they get trained in editing Wikipedia and do an article actually for credit and all that. That's been quite a big... The trouble is the retention rates, the number of people who are trained face-to-face in editing, who carry on editing, is actually not, it's quite a disappointing proportion. And the great majority of actual Wikipedia editors never had any training, because you can pick it up all online. We ought to make that easier than we do. But most regular Wikipedians never had any training. I never did. You probably never did mine.
Well, there wasn't any training back then.
No. I personally feel the main problem is that people it's just not hot. People are off doing other stuff online, which is a pity. But we absolutely need to find ways of, various sort of, sort of learning societies and associations and so on have kind of urged their membership to get online and start editing Wikipedia. I think without tremendous success in the scientific areas, but in some areas like the humanities, where I sort of kind of my natural background. I mostly edit art history. Really in art history, if you do it 10 years ago and you do it nicely, then it doesn't really date most of the time. There's not much happening. In science, that's very much not the case.
It's a moving target very much.
And unfortunately, a lot of our content, particularly in sort of cancer research areas, was pretty good when it was done in the OOs, and it's now beginning to show signs of age.
Yeah, a question. Wikipedia is a huge resource for information. So anyone who wants to have some info, details, whatever, I don't need to explain this, everybody goes to Wikipedia. But on this aspect particularly, it looks like it's not sustainable. It can't self-reproduce into other people's mind. have you ever considered maybe the idea of, I don't know, putting together a package of little lessons like a sort of online course?
There is. If you go into Wikipedia and go Wikipedia:tutorial, there's a, it's not as good as it should be, but there's.
I was going to say, I think it's fair to say that where e-learning has got to as a concept now, and where the prospect of plugging in sort of current generation e-learning techniques into what Wikipedia offers on there, I don't think that's quite where it's at yet, and it'd be good to see what happens when that does happen. The tutorials, the information is there. It's just the mechanism for delivering it.
There's actually almost too much information, but no, you just press help, or you'll find that stuff.
One thing that I have recently, because I edit a little bit myself, is that there's a new button on there now, which is a visual editor, which has really split and divided everyone. There's a lot of people who like the way it used to be, and there's a lot of people who, well, I don't know what the general take is on the new thing, but if you're just wanting to go in and do some simple copy editing rather than putting lots of references and doing big page structures, it's actually an awful lot simpler now to go in there. You don't get exposed to any of the wiki code, you don't have all the square brackets and the equal signs and everything. You can just go and click edit, and it's just like doing Google Doc, which I tried out the other day for the first time and was actually quite pleasantly surprised by it. So
what's it called now? Is it for somebody?
Beta edit or edit?
Beta edit or something, yeah.
Any more comments or questions? Is anyone here tempted to start editing stuff? Does anyone have a sort of area of expertise that they can?
I would encourage people. I mean, there are all sorts of, the thing is, there are all sorts of statements about editing Wikipedia that are true for some people some of the time, and the Wikipedia actually has a sort of history. It's changed considerably. It's now 12 years old, but it has been a very different place at different points in its life cycle. And I think, in a way, the period that, the sort of 9 to 12, or I don't know, period was quite a difficult one. The number of rules and the insistence on referencing has greatly increased. It is harder to edit Wikipedia because the encyclopedia is better, and only improvements will survive. And because it's better than it was back in the way early days, it's harder to improve. But it's still not that hard. And it is always true that there are certain pages and certain editors. It is an online, it's the web. There are certain difficult areas.
If you're editing a page on the BRAF gene, you're probably pretty safe putting those edits in. If you're editing on it the medicinal effects of cannabis, you probably want to be pretty sure you know
exactly, yes.
Do you think I think even just got to let the Wikipedia community know that you've got some new evidence or something to share. I think this is where Cochrane has that issue, is every week we have a huge amount of new evidence that needs to go out there and we need to update. And that it's just not possible to get all that information updated straight away. There's clearly not enough editors out there in the world. So I think our thinking was, well, let's get some project pages and start talking to the Wikipedia community and letting them know and flagging up when we've got some new evidence on a particular topic, and maybe that's the way forward. So at least we've got the information there. We've said, hi guys, we've got some new stuff, and hopefully at some point someone will pick that up and make sure it's up.
That's pretty much the thing. We've realised that we can't go into all stuff, but what we are going to probably do in the next couple of weeks is go to all the pages that we're concerned about, or where we have some substantial subject matter expertise. And just go and write a paragraph on the talk page saying, hello, I'm user X, I work at Cancer Research UK, we have expertise in this. If you would like to help improve this page, drop that email address, an email, and someone will get back to you. So we're trying
that has been slightly difficult in the project, because the idea was that we would offer expertise and reviews, and the existing editing medical community, about half of whom are medical professionals, or students at least, would come along and take us up on that offer and do the work, follow up on the reviews. and that hasn't really happened.
You say that apart from enough is true, but when we were at the Wikimedia conference, we met Emily, who was was a US based medical student who wanted to make the endometrial cancer article better. So she asked us if we could help. We got an internal review, we posted it on the talk page, and she went, and now that article is a featured article.
Yeah.
And that wasn't within any of those KPIs on there. That was a completely new article. Well,
and we gave it two reviews that she, accepted. So that was, sorry, you had a...
Yeah, sorry, it's about sort of the opposite of what you were just saying, because you have the expertise, you have this info when you're going to give it to users. But is there a way is there a place on Wikipedia that says these are the areas that are really badly covered and we want? Is it, for example, imagine
it's usually the projects.
Because you can imagine you're a learned society or you have some interest in a particular area and maybe it's really well covered already and actually there's nothing you can do. It's fine.
It's they call wiki projects, and most sort of subject areas have them. But the medical one is actually pretty active. An awful lot of them in the scientific area, as I found at the Royal Society, it's just tumbleweed. I'm afraid they vary. Some of them are. I don't know. How's astronomy? Is that?
It comes and goes.
Comes and goes. Yeah. I mean, you tend to have quite a small number of people, sadly, and that's a kind of measure. But I mean, that is the place you go and do that. We also have a project page for Cancer Research UK on Wikipedia, and we did for the Royal Society as well. So that will be a kind of focus as well, for where we kind of say what the project's about and all the rest of it.
I would be very surprised if you could pick any topic on Wikipedia and say, oh yeah, that's done. There's nothing more to do on that. Everything on Wikipedia can do improvement. There's some bits which are featured articles, and so they're supposed to be the best that Wikipedia has. Even those can do improvement, or can do more detail in different areas.
Or updating, very often.
Yes.
Very often.
It's about being not overwhelmed, I think. The vastness of information out there, and I think that's where we have our issues within Cochrane as well. It's the vastness of every week, the different types of information that gets covered. It's about trying to simplify that, and that's what we're thinking with the project pages, and somehow divide it up so we're not throwing people completely in a taken up.
I think we're about to hit 3 p.m, which is coffee break, is that right? Yeah. So, just a very quick show of hands, who would be interested in some editing training in the next session?
Or organising one for...
Or well, if you'd like help, we can organise one, or who, but as in right now, who would be up
we can do it right here, as Mickey Rooney used to
So,
say.
hands right up, so we just get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do it. So I think that will be. Has everyone who put their hand up got a laptop or device of some kind? Yeah. So they will, because the idea is we'll present very quickly and then give you a chance to work.
I think well, before we break for coffee, I think Grace wanted to do. Do you want to wrap up now? Or?
We've got everyone in here. So it's still another session.
Okay. Well, how should we play this? What do you want to? Get the other lot through? Or?
Just say as well, if anyone's got any other questions about Wikipedia, come and find one of us.
Yeah. Wikipedia at all. Right. And who has edited Wikipedia sort of more than just putting in a word or two and more than 20 times? Who would kind of call themselves a regular editor? And who is a registered user with a name and password they can remember? Okay, good. Great. So basically we're going to start off with a presentation with little bits of action as well, and then the last part of the session you can stay pretty much as long as you like, or want to, just editing, and there are 3 of us here who are pretty experienced and will be able to help you. Fine, that's all right. I'm going to take for granted that you know a fair bit about Wikipedia. You I'm just going to point out one thing that people don't always understand about Wikipedia is the different types of, it's a website obviously, like most websites, it's page-based. You read one page, you go to another page. There are lots of different types of pages on Wikipedia. The ones you come to very quickly and easily are the article pages, and they are the only pages whose page names don't have a prefix. All the other types of pages have a prefix. Every article has a talk page, and that is called talk : whatever the article title is. Talk pages are worth looking at. They're quite important, particularly if you kind of run into difficulties or there are things about the article you don't understand. Sometimes they're completely empty. Sometimes they're full of thousands and thousands. If you printed out talk global warming, including its 82 archives, you would have a kind of airport bestseller volume. Whereas other things, some of them quite large topics, have virtually nothing on the talk page. But be aware they're there. They're up on the left. You toggle between article and talk. There are a number of other types of pages. Particularly, there's these sort of administrative pages, which people tend to be unaware of, but are. Can you all hear me, by the way? Yeah. The administrative pages have a prefix Wikipedia : something, and that's where all the sort of notorious arguments happen. Okay, do you want to... There's a PowerPoint on there. Cool. Sorry about this.
You carry on, I'll get it set up.
Yeah, well, you won't know. Good. So basically, I'm ignoring. There is a new sort of WYSIWYG editor on Wikipedia where you can kind of edit the article as it appears. I'm not going to talk about that today because although Henry is a big fan, we may look at it very quickly. But I'm going to talk about the old one, which is a modified, which is the old way. It's actually the way Wikipedia is, which is you switch between view mode and edit mode. So you press edit, you go into a view mode that looks completely different. The editing window slightly different, very different. Then you press save. You've saved what you've done, and you're back in view mode. And the Wikipedia code is a sort of modified form of HTML. Does anyone have HTML experience or know what I'm talking about? Yeah, a little. So it's kind of simplified, and it's got certain individual features. It's much, much more straightforward than HTML, I have to say.
So which presentation will you after?
Okay, let's just look at an article. Actually, you'll have to think of a topic, and if you could just take people through the basic edit process. I've got limited numbers. I didn't bring enough. Book brochures on how to edit, and which are kind of cover the basic stuff, which is also online, and also on how to upload images. So those at the front, I don't think you particularly need them now. Just go to anything scientific, but small. It's too popular, too big and too popular. Something small off that. Bounty hunters. Yeah. Oh, no, all right. Okay, why not? Okay. Good choice. Okay, can you just demonstrate the sort of cycle through these? So yeah, this is edit source, which I think is not what a default.
Yeah,
it's not what a, is it?
That's a default at the moment.
Okay. So this, he's pressed edit. He's gone into the edit view, which looks different. I mean, just basic things. you know, some of the modified HTML, 2 equal signs gives you a top-level heading, open and close. 3 equal signs would be 1 level further down. That's all covered in there. Also, there's a page called Wikipedia cheat sheet, which gives you all these. You perhaps might want to have that open when you start editing.
Sorry, can I ask why you're not showing the edit, the WYSIWYG editor?
Because
Nothing's going to stay around, or?
I think they're definitely committed to it. When they introduced it much too soon, and it was full of bugs, and virtually no regular user, they all sort of looked at it and tried it and walked away in disgust. I believe Henry is now sort of a believer.
Use it on a decent computer with the latest version of Chrome, it seems to be pretty stable. Although Mike and I were saying yesterday, for copy editing, it's really good. If you want to be putting loads of references in and rearranging pages wholesale and sort of putting info boxes and images in, it seems to be, apparently has some limitations. But the other day I was literally just going through the cancer page and just include.
If you're just rewriting the prose,
it's pretty good for that.
And you were linking and referencing.
I didn't try referencing in it, but I definitely put some links in. And
it was kind of things like references that were.
Yeah, because the last time I edited them was very minor something. I used it in a reference, which was no problem.
Okay.
So that's
yeah, well, I mean, references. The trouble is, there's so many different kinds of templates, and they're actually a problem even in the old ones. So
I think
I'm surprised they weren't in the new ones.
The reason to know more about the edit source rather than the edit beta one is just because you actually get to see how the markup all fits together, and you just get a bit more of an insight into how a page is actually built. And it's just in the same way that if you learn to write a very limited amount of HTML, when you do have a page that doesn't look right, you can go in and fix it. So it is kind of useful to have that stuff, but increasingly so.
I mean, just looking at this page, let's just move down it reasonably. So we've got the title, we've then got one of these wonderful Wikipedia, warning notices. We've then got the strange little box, which shouldn't be there. We've got a picture, and we don't have an info box, which is a rare omission these days, particularly in scientific subjects. So just returning back into the edit view. What you'll see, the first thing at the top of the page is you see a load of things in squiggly brackets, open squigglies, close squigglies. Those are templates, which are little sort of, they send the computer off to do a sort of routine of some kind or pick up content. The first one of those is other uses. That gives you the sort of hat note that disambiguates, and it tells you for bounty something else, multiple issues, that does that. The next one is squiggly brackets, multiple issues, which generates that big warning notice. Then it's got things that these are all further detail within that. These are the sort of bullet points within. The next one's historical information needed, globalize from the United States, improve the references, lead too short. Actually, that's such a...
Basically ignore that.
I'm tempted just to bloody remove that, actually. Then you've got, now, the next one down is 2 square brackets. That's the image. So square brackets are a link. In this case, it's a link to an image. The images are mostly hosted on what's actually a different site, Wikimedia Commons, but you can, just putting in the file name of a Wikimedia Commons file will pick it up, linking to that, will pick it up from Wikimedia Commons and transclude it onto Wikipedia, which is very convenient. So again, that goes on with the caption, and there's a link within the caption until it closes there. Another point is the next line. You've got 3 little inverted, 3 little inverted comma type things. Those make it bold. 2 make it italic. These are the kind of basic wiki markup that you'll find on Wikipedia cheat sheet. Gives you that kind of stuff. So the second of those, the 4 square brackets at the end, the first two are closing the link just before. So that is an internal link to an article with that title in Wikipedia. If there is an article with that title, it'll go blue. If there isn't, it'll go red. And I think that one was blue. Is there another link around? Oh yeah, another one here, the next line down, or a couple of lines down, bounty hunter reward. This is a piped link. So you've got 2 square brackets, then you've got the name of the article, which is bounty brackets reward. Then you've got a pipe or a vertical line and the text you see. So that takes you off to a link that's, so you don't want the exact article title in every time you link. So if we just go back and look at how the finished product looks again. Yeah. So, yeah, what was that monetary reward? Yeah, bounty reward, yeah. And the bold on bounty hunter. Okay, what I'd like you all to do now is to create an account in Wikipedia. That's pretty simple. You go to Wikipedia and you will have, that's it, right at the top right, you will have login or register, I think it says. It's a very quick process. You don't have to give your credit card, real name, or any personal details. It is a good idea to give your email. You won't get junk mail. All they use that for is sending you your password when you forget it, as you inevitably will. So if you haven't
get messages from other users,
and you have to enable that, but yeah.
One thing I would just jump in there and say, if you're just going to be editing a small number of pages, or that's one page you try and have with your pet project, it can be quite useful to set up email alerts when anyone else edits that page. Because you can just keep, if you're doing 100 other
well,
pages,
we'll
it's quite good. But if you're editing hundreds of thousands of different pages, then...
So could you all, how many people are going to do that? Because there's actually a limit on that we may have to go around. We're going to set up an account now. You account.
Yeah, I'm on.
1, 2. Okay. If you could do that, and if you have any problems, let Henry just raise your hand or something, and Henry will sort you out. I don't really write HTML, so I'm not quite sure what would work and what's the same and what's not. But
the basic things tend to be the same. So things like BR flow at Lake do work on Wikipedia. It's best not to use them if you can, though. Things like A-links just won't work. I don't think div or...
It doesn't automatically translate them into...
I'm afraid not.
No.
People can edit it.
No. Yeah, so...
you have to learn it.
Well, there's really not that much to learn. The basic sort of things like, the way the links work, there really aren't too many of those.
Yeah.
There are an awful lot of templates you can invoke and this kind of thing. Is there a sub-page for training?
There's training locker.
This page out. Can you look at the Cats Research Project and see if that's got a subject? Sorry, that should
It'd be used to get on. Just use the email.
Yeah, but I don't know. Okay. What do I look at? There are I'm going to run through very quickly the sort of more high level conceptual things, the 5 pillars of Wikipedia, which are okay, great. Okay, and that's got a shortcut to it.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. We'll just keep that. We'll come back to that. Can you go to 5 pillars? So these are the sort of the tips of the iceberg of what's actually a very large and tedious amount of Wikipedia policy, which if you edit a fair bit, people will come along and sort of bash you over the head because you haven't, done things correctly by the manual of style, which is tiresome, but...
I slightly disagree in that when I've edited, what tends to happen is that someone comes along and very politely just tweaks the style that I've done.
or they'll do that.
And it's not actually a negative thing at all. Actually, when I get things ever so slightly wrong, someone will come along and just move the reference thing to the other side of the
preparing them for the worst. But, I mean, don't worry about that, because nobody expects you, nobody knows it all. It keeps changing anyway. So, very quickly, these, as I say, each of these blue links kind of tends to take you off to a whole bunch of other policy documents. So Wikipedia is an encyclopedia. That's essentially saying what's outside the scope of Wikipedia, and it's not all those things. So it is basically an encyclopedia that has articles in a sort of encyclopedic style on topics, and it doesn't do all that other stuff. It's written from a neutral point of view, next point. That is, what is neutrality? There are big issues there, there's endless discussion, debate, but people are pretty clear what that tends to mean. It's free content, that's a big commitment. Whenever you edit, there's small print below that you say you've agreed to, and all your content will, can be and quite possibly will be reused with attribution in any context, including commercial. And there are people who actually advertise books on eBay that are just made up of Wikipedia articles, which I don't recommend buying. Okay. Editors should treat each other with respect. Yes, they certainly should, and sometimes they do. Maybe most of the time. Wikipedia has no firm rules. Again, that's sort of variably true, because there are some rules that you probably shouldn't break. Okay.
But basically that means if something gets in the way of improving the encyclopedia, don't worry about it too much. Just carry on and do it and see what happens.
Yes, exactly, yes. Okay. People who set up a new account, could you put into the Wikipedia search window, Wikipedia, you just highlight that, Wikipedia.
I highlight it in the search box.
Yeah, just put that in the search box. That will take you to this page. Can you just start a new section for today? Well, you don't really do. Mike's going to start a new section with today's date. One other shortcut, which you use on talk pages, is to sign your username with a whole lot of dates, all the dates and the time. You just put 4 tildes in a row. That's very handy. So I'd just like people who are here just to sign in on this section, so I've got a kind of record.
Wikipedia is a Wikipedia :CIUK space training.
Can you sign it as an example?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
If I delete it with text.
Does that still work in? Do you know? Does that? I don't have no idea how that works in the. What are you doing?
I forgot half of the header, so.
Okay.
So if you
just
copy that.
Yeah, just copy that bit. 4 tildes. Okay. But then we'll just do it for real now, and then they'll see what it actually bloody looks like. There. So he's just done 4 tildes once, which he's done in a way so it doesn't take effect, and then he's done it again, and that has generated all that. So that's how you sign talk page discussions. So if you've got an account now, can you do that there over the next few minutes? If you don't, try not to all do it exactly at the same time, or there'll be an edit conflict. And I'm going to. Do you want to talk about referencing really quickly?
Not really.
No.
I can do if you want.
Okay. I'll just talk about referencing in the most general sense. Referencing is obviously very important. It's a big issue. It's originally, there wasn't much insistence on referencing Wikipedia. Nowadays there is. So everything is supposed to be referenced. There are templates, little subroutines that are very handy. Can you open up? Can you? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Can you just go to a page and go? Have you got that bounty hunter? Yeah. Right. Okay. So this is we're in the edit window here. You've got at the top. You've got this bit which has got various things that I think you'll recognise from other programs. The link, chains are to put in a link. So if you click that, you get the square brackets opening and closing. The book is references. That just gives you the most basic. Click that. Oh, okay, it's gone fancy.
Most basic.
Yeah. So you can do it like that. And actually, referencing is another of these things that. To do it absolutely correctly can be very fiddly because you're supposed to be consistent with an article. But so long as you add a reference, one thing other Wikipedia editors are pretty good at is tidying up your reference. Some of them quite like that. So, if you can just put in, the title of the book, the author, the page or whatever, or the title of the, take a copy paste from any sort of thing with the bibliographic reference, slap it inside this, replacing that text. That will be okay. That will kind of probably save your text, and it will get tidied up by someone.
There's also, for those of you who know about such things, which is probably quite like most of you here, you can put the PubMed ID or the DOI in there, and there's templates that will automatically fill that stuff out.
That's this one.
Yes.
Site journal.
Site journal.
Now, if we could remember a PMID that worked.
I can call one out. Hold on.
Yeah, go on.
No.
It doesn't. I can never get it to work for DOI. I don't know why. I mean, these things are a bit browser dependent, and also with a user account, you have a whole lot of preferences up there at the top.
Try 10194991.
And then you click on the magnifying glass and
Published research paper.
That's great. And then all you might want to do is change the pages. That gives you all the pages. You might, if you want a specific page, you might put that in over there instead. Then you press insert, and wham, that goes in the article.
Let's go.
And it turns it into that, and just put. Now, if you're doing a new article, there's one thing you need at the bottom to make all these references print out, and that at the bottom of the edit window. Yeah, if you do the is ref list. And that will generate a list of numbered references above the point you've done that. So just show them what that looks like. Whoa. Yeah. There we go. Rather typically, it doesn't actually quite work because they've now fiddled with the what is it? Page.
For the purposes of what you'd be doing, you'd be putting in some text, adding a reference, and if it's something funny like that, you can rest assured that within about half an
Actually, a computer will come around probably, most likely, that sort of thing. Okay, let's just look at the bottom of the edit window again, because we haven't looked at that. So here we are at the bottom of the edit window. We press edit at the top. We then, when we finished below the contractual, your options are save, which just saves it, show preview, which shows you what it would look like in the final view, show changes, don't worry, cancel, gets out of it. You should put in an edit summary in that box, where under summary. Some people do really long ones, particularly if you're editing the same article quite a number of times. It's probably I just put CE half the time, copy edit. And then above that bit, you've got this lot here. These are fairly useful things. Actually, they're worse. I never use most of those. Ref list we talked about. That one is quite important. If you're doing a new article, you only need an article once. And can you show the options for the... You've got a number of options on this drop-down menu. Latin, okay, so Mike's gone for symbols. Mathematics. I go for Latin, which gives me all my Roman alphabet diacriticals, and you've got Greek and Cyrillic and God knows what as well. Those stick. Once you've chosen one, it sticks till you've changed it. Okay. I'll go back to my slides because I can't remember this down. Next. Don't worry about that. Shall I do presentations through?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay. Just a quick. Okay, so let's pick something even bounty hunter, perhaps. So back at the last thing I want to look at is the sort of stuff around the basic page. I've mentioned. All right. So this is. That's all right. Let's do the talk page first. So I said article talk. You kind of toggle between the two. The talk page. Sorry. The talk page is called talk. It's called the article title prefixed by talk : they all are. This one is obviously, let's go down the bottom now. This will presumably be full of stuff from the last few days.
One thing I would point out as a newbie, when I was a newbie to Wikipedia, what I hadn't realised, I'd expected some kind of chat functionality or forum-based stuff. It's not. It's a page, and you edit it just like any other page. And you go in there and you create a heading and a new paragraph of text. And if you want to reply to someone, you have to indent your reply underneath. And it's actually, I think, for me anyway, one of the least attractive bits of Wikipedia is that in order to interact with other editors, you have this very sort of flat way of doing so, which when you're used to kind of liking stuff on Facebook and embedding images and all this kind of stuff, it's a very cumbersome way of doing stuff, but it works. And it's there in perpetuity, and it's really good when you're going to try and edit a new page. Before you actually start editing that page, just go and read the talk page, because you'll probably find out that if it's nice and uncontroversial, you're probably good to just go in and start editing. If there's a massive war on there, then you might want to...
Exactly. It's worth seeing what's happening on the talk page. Yeah. Some are totally busy, and some are...
Just to very quickly show you how to leave a comment. You put colons in front, numbers, number of indentations, text, and then you've got tildes at the end. Yeah.
So talk pages you always want to sign when you do something. Article pages you never sign.
Don't worry if you forget, someone comes along and does it for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a computer will do it for you. Where did that go?
So your changes are not signed automatically because you've been doing them.
You don't put the 4 tildes to your changes on article pages. You do on talk.
Okay.
So you got this guy's done it. Those two, that guy, and I don't know about him. What's he up to? So these people have all signed their contributions on the talk page. Okay, can we look at the article now on page? Okay. In terms of the record for your contributions to articles, and in fact all pages, well, hold it there a bit.
Zoom out.
So here we are back at the article. You've got, we haven't talked about, the very top row, Mike Peel, that's Mike, that is a link to his user page, which is kind of like your Facebook page. That's your personal page where you say as much as or as little about who you are and what you've done, and you can sort of keep notes there or whatever, or put a picture of your cat or yourself. The next one is your talk page, your personal talk page. It's very rude to edit anyone else's user page, but it's absolutely fine to go to their talk page and leave them a message. Sandboxes are sort of that gives you a kind of blank page where you can play around and do drafts and stuff. Preferences opens up a whole bunch of user preferences and menus, which are some of which are very useful actually, and the defaults are sometimes rather strangely chosen, but we don't have time to get into that. All of those have tabs. And the watch list. Who's counted on?
Mine.
Okay. Do you mind? The watch list is the list of articles that you are watching, which for most people means the list of articles you've edited. So if you're a regular editor, it's an absolutely key tool, because that tells you what's going on in the pages you're interested in. So what it's telling you is today's date, the time, the title of, this is what Mike was doing just before, the title of the page, /Angel training. You've got a different format from me.
Yeah.
The number of, that's all right, the number of bytes that were added, and can you just click on the diff? Actually, I'm afraid yours won't look like this because Mike has souped his up with strange. You will have, your one will have a thing called diff, and if you click diff, you get a thing like this, which the whole history of all the pages in Wikipedia is accessible by summary of the page and also by diff, which shows you a before and after of a particular edit. That's the before, that's the after. Sadly, what's happened scroll down. This is what's happened in between. So that bit's new. Where there's a paragraph, that paragraph has just been added. If a paragraph's been edited, it sort of highlights the words that have changed and so on. Okay, back to preferably not filler. I think that's probably too complicated. Some quiet little page, and let's look at the edit history. Yeah, wow. Okay, so we're going off to an article page. There we go. The lower, we looked at the top. Another one I didn't mention is contributions on the top menu. That shows all your contributions, all the edits you've done. It's very useful just to, find the page you were working on before.
That's what your watch list will look like as well.
Okay, cool. Anyway. Okay, so on the second level menu tabs, article is the article, talk we've looked at, read is the view you're in, edit source, edits are the sort of edit ones, view history. This is very important if you want to know what's going on in an article. This shows you all the edits that have ever happened. Somebody printed out the edit history of the article Vietnam War, just as more as a kind of artwork than as anything else. And it was printed out in books about that big, and it was kind of like that long, along a shelf. So each sort of entry here is a single edit. It shows you when it was done, the name of the editor who did it, Clarity Fiend, links to his talk page, his contributions, his block record, which you won't get because you're not an admin like Mike. The number of bytes that were added, the number of cumulative bytes in the article after the edit, and the additional number of bytes in green, or the if it was subtracted, it'll be in red, and you can click normally diff. Oh, sorry, you do diffs by the buttons, really.
Well, if you do
Okay.
then just as previous
Okay.
edit.
Again, I don't get that view. Anyway, if we go back to the edit history, I mean, edit history enables you to sort of see how often the article is edited, which is pretty often in this case. Just scroll down a bit. You normally get, I think it's 250 views on a page or something. That only takes you back to October. Oh, okay. Actually, right. Okay, so 250 edits takes you back to 2011. An awful lot of articles you'll get there'll only be 50 edits in total. And you can see what's happening. I notice it's halved again in size. And then can you do page history summary thingy?
How do you mean?
At the top. Revision history statistics. Yeah, this summarises the history of the article. And if you're kind of interested in, what's happening on an article, and also how many people look at it, the page views on Wikipedia for every page are updated daily. Whereas, most, I know the sort of Cancer Research UK page views are sort of closely guarded, secret.
Wikimedia Foundation says no. Sorry.
What?
It's not loading.
Okay. Isn't it? Oh well. Okay, that is actually quite a sort of, try view statistics.
I've also done that one, it's not loading.
Not loading, okay. That I think is the sort of internet connection.
Yeah, the labs must be having problems.
Yeah, sometimes it takes time. But you can find out what the page views are, which is kind of very, I like to work on pages that got high, a lot of people see, and I'm less interested in working on them if not many people see them. It varies quite a lot, and it's not always what you'd expect either. Okay, I think that's it. Can we go back to the training page to see who, if anyone, has signed up? And then I think...
Do you want to briefly talk?
Oh, right, okay. That is just article statistics on that previous menu. So that just shows you that's the 30 day, and you can get 60 or 90 up there. We don't do that because it'll take forever. So that's 45,000 in the last 30 days. So that's 500,000 a year. And you get, there's a kind of weekly rhythm and there's an annual rhythm, as there is with most websites. Okay, cool. I think we just, are there any questions? I'm going to ask for questions, but then I think if people want to just try editing while there's help around to sort out any problems they may get into, just sort of correcting something, I think is the easiest thing, or if people want to do anything else. But first of all, I'll say, are there any questions?
Did you cover the putting disclosures on talk pages and why that's really good and saying who you are?
Only very briefly. But
probably so, for example, if you go...
Yeah, if you go to my WikiCruck, which has got quite a full one. So if you're editing either relating to an institution or company you work for, it's very important to, on your user page, say what you're doing. You don't have to say necessarily who you are, but you have to say that you have a potential conflict of interest, disclose that you are researching in a particular area, working for a particular even type of organisation, pharma company people tend just to say, I work for a pharma company, they don't tell you which one, which is perhaps understandable. But it's very important to have done that up front, and then also, if you're working on an actual article that's where there's a potential conflict of interest, it's best to start by going to the talk page and say, hi, I'm interested in working on this article, but I thought I ought to disclose that I have a potential conflict of interest. And depending on what you want to do, it might be best to say, I'd like to add a link to my, university or whatever, to my research or something, and write about it. To outline what you want to do first, you can either say, I'd like to do this, do people think that's okay? Or you can say, I'd like to do this, I'll do it in a week's time if I haven't had any objections. Or you can just say, I've done this, but let me know any comments. Most of the time, if you do that, you don't actually get any comments. Although, of course, if you do work for a pharma company and you're editing articles on your company's drugs, then that might not be the case. But there's a lot of area, partly because, frankly, the pages aren't being watched very closely or at all, or people are just okay about it. But it's very important to do that first. Don't do the edits, then get caught with a conflict of interest, because people immediately kind of, that puts you in very bad light straight away, and people kind of assume the worst.
Normally because the worst has happened in the past.
So this is my, in my Cancer Research UK role, my user page, which starts off with a big sort of explanation of, disclosure of interest. And I also went to the medical project and introduced myself there. And I have done it on some particular pages, and also for the Royal Society before I edited them. Cancer pages, I tend to, the medical pages, you can kind of assume. The project also can be a good place. Can we just look at the medical project? This is one of the most active projects. Unfortunately, if you're sort of, biology, the project biology, which has many sort of sub-projects, microbiology and so forth, they all seem pretty dead to me. But the medical talk page, if we just look at that and then go down to the bottom and look at the current discussions, that has about 3 new topics a day. Stage B. And then up here a little bit, one of these is complaining about, indeed, a pharma company. No, not that one, next up. Just in the last couple of days, this guy. That's quite an interesting one. I was talking about it in a talk earlier. This is the Magnets Over the Head consultancy guy who has disclosed he's kind of paid, and he has edited the article on whatever the hell it is, transcranial magnetic stimulation, which looks quite Heath Robinson, but does actually have some kind of level of FDA approval. But he has significantly altered the balance of the papers that are, the coverage of the papers that have been written about this in ways that people are, I think, suspicious about. Okay. Any other questions, or do people want to carry on editing, doing a little editing? I'm very happy to stay. I'm sure Mike is for a bit. And it's quite useful as people to get stuck. You'll have to think of something to edit, or we can suggest ideas, but it's best to pick something that you're aware of or know about. There's an awful lot I've not been able to cover. It is a complex subject, but it is really quite easy to start.